In today's painting demonstration, we're going to do a study of an iris. I'm really thinking of three values: the light, the mid value, which is nearly all of the rest, and the darks. For my color palette, I've chosen an analogous color scheme, but I'm actually going to use a yellow-orange by mixing the cad yellow medium and the cad orange, a straight orange, and a red orange. And then I have over here, I'm going to use a blue-violet as sort of as a complementary, and if I need to tone things down. And my blue-violet's going to be made up of a little bit of dioxazine purple and a little ultramarine blue, and I'll mix up a blue-violet. So I'm going to start with a yellow-orange, and I want it to be a light value of yellow-orange. And I'm just going to hit some spots around the edge of this. I'll start on this side, kind of doing a broken line, but immediately I'm going to get water and bleed these down, and they're all sort of going to come down towards the center. And get a few actual vein type shapes. Okay, I just want to bring this down a little bit more. So I'm holding the brush almost parallel to the paper just to get that broken brush effect. Take a little bit there. Put that right now. Again, the side of my brush. And I'll just add just a hint of the red to it. And so I'm going to go more to the red area of things. And this color, straight out of the tube, is going to be a darker value than that yellow up there. And as I get to the bottom here, I'm going to just take a hint of this blue-violet and mix that in there just to make it get it a little bit more neutral to the as it gets towards the edge here. I might try and keep a little bit of that dry brush in there, some of that white paper. Okay, now I have to, so I want it to be a little bit darker here. A little darker value, and I also want to start getting some of those sort of veins which are very characteristic of irises. A little bit of my blue-violet and mix it in there a little bit more. And I want this to be fairly wet. I'm just going to do a little bit of splattering, just flick my brush against my finger just to get a few. I take a little bit of this and a little bit of my blue-violet to make a darker value, and then just throw in, yeah. I don't want this to be too busy. My center of interest is up here, so I'm going to leave that for now. I'll move over to this petal, which is going to be kind of a companion piece to this. I'm going to have in the middle here I'm going to keep one strip of white. So I'm going to go on both sides of it. Yeah, so I'm going to keep that strip of white because there's often something like that in there. I'm just trying to move around my palette here to get so I'm just moving around my palette just to vary the combination in there to get some nice colors, to get a variety of colors. And since we're in the same analogous color scheme, they're all going to work with each other. And then I want to get some lines again that are a bit stronger, a little bit darker. If I make sure the mixture that I pick up on that the brush is drier than the paper, so I can blot it off a little bit. So this brush should be drier than the paper, then even though it's very wet, I can get lines. They're going to bleed a little bit, but they will hold their form to a certain extent. And then if I go in a little darker and just make sure I get most of the water out. Yeah. I want to make sure that at the top here, it's the darkest value because it's kind of in amongst the petals there. So I'll just take a little bit and let that do its thing up there. I find these patterns in here, the darks and light patterns, very interesting. So maybe I'll just emphasize them a bit. I've taken my brush and squeezed it till it's now a thirsty brush. And then I can lift out, again, I wet my brush, squeeze it dry so it's a thirsty brush. And that's subtle, but it does increase the contrast there, which is very desirable. Okay, and also here, I'm going to go with a darker mixture, just definitely over to the blue violet side, the little cad red light, there's a little cad orange. Now I think I'll just commit to having it dark and do a little splattering in here. Yeah, and since this one's now much drier, we'll add a little touch of that there. Throw in a bit of yellow for the first one. So this is quite a thick mixture. And try and recreate that bit of ragged edge there. And this petal, I want it to be this color up here. And then I want it to come down and get redder as it gets to the bottom. Because this cad red is in a sense, it's a darker form of the orange. It's a darker value. And here I'm just really letting it set up to dry, but I want to have a lighter vein in there. So I've taken again my thirsty brush, squeezed it dry. Yeah, and now I need some, I'm going to do a couple of things here. One, again near the tip here, we get these effect of these little vein things. So I'm going to put some of those in, and then take some, just a wet brush, and kind of bleed them down. Add a little red in there. Now I can see this paper is a little bit too dry up there, so I'm going to, I don't want hard edges, that's for sure. So I'm going to kind of flood the whole thing with water. And then we'll try that again. Now, and see again, because the brush is drier than the paper, I'm able to get a fairly decent straight edge, or fairly defined line, which is going to bleed just a little bit, which is quite nice. And I'll take some of these. This is going to be my mid value, but it's going to be the center of interest, so I need to get some stronger bits of color in here. And I want to emphasize this central vein. Yep. Add a bit more red to that. Okay, and then this, as it gets to the bottom, I'm going to take my darks. Okay. Just going to take a little of this blue violet. Want to be fairly wet, and we'll just splatter a little in there. Now this, again, I want to come in. There's a folded over petal here. I think this might be dry enough, but I can just emphasize that. So that section now is going to look like it's lifted over a bit.